Alright guys, welcome back to Death from Above 40k. Today I am going over some list building and tactics for an army I'm building for a tournament. So far what I've got in front of the camera is about 900 points. I'm working towards 1350 points, which is what the tournament is. So far what we've got in front of the camera now makes my battalion and 2 heavy support choices and 1 elite. So we've got Hive Tyrant and Tyranid Prime for the 2 HQs. Then we've got Warriors, Homogorts for the troops. They got 1, 2 Carnifexes, and then the Tyrant Guard is the elite's choice. I've been running these as Jormungandr to give them the cover because it just works really well, giving monstrous creatures 2-ups, gives the Warriors a 3-up, all that sort of stuff. I am going to go over some tactics as well, also for Hive Fleet Kraken, because that's another one that I want to give a test run to. Just think that it works well with big mobs of Homogorts and fast moving stuff like that. So what we'll do is I'll break it down and I'll go through each of the units, starting with the HQs and why I've chosen. Alright guys, so here we are with the HQ choices. As you can see, I've also put the Tyrant Guard in next to the Hive Tyrant, because even though it's an elite's choice, it is part of, well, as far as I'm concerned, part of his unit. It used to actually be an extension of his unit, now it's an elite's choice. In the old codex, you used to actually just pay on top of him to have his little Tyrant Guard, but that's neither here nor there. So, first up for a HQ, I've gone with Hive Tyrant on foot. He's got the Venom Cannon and Scything Talons, or monstrous Scything Talons. I've chosen this because I want one of my Hive Tyrants to be on foot, walking along with the army, laying down some firepower, getting his synapse out, and also being a bit of a defense, like he can get into combat as well. So he's a bit of an all-rounder. I find sometimes I put wings on the one that I'm going to make my Warlord, I rush him into combat, and then, you know, he eventually dies, giving away Warlord. So, giving him the heavy Venom Cannon, gives him D3 Strength 9, AP2 flat 3 damage shots. He's got a ballistic skill 3, so that's some good long range firepower while he's making his way across the field. And the Scything Talons make him Strength 6, AP 3, and flat 3 damage as well. So all of his stuff is flat 3 damage. In combat, one of the things I find that's a bit of a letdown is he is only Strength 6, but it's not the end of the world. It can be, you can still fight stuff, just be aware when you're going into combat that if you're fighting something that's tough 7 and above, you're going to start to struggle in terms of doing damage. Psychic powers I usually give him is Catalyst and Onslaught. Catalyst gives a unit a 5-up Feel No Pain, and Onslaught allows a unit to assault after running or shoot weapons after moving, so it's kind of like a keeps pace with the army. So usually as a HQ, the Warlord trait I would usually give him as well is if I do take him as Kraken, which I'm going to give a few test games as, I like the 1 step ahead, which gives you pretty much your fight first in combat. So it's not a bad one. Otherwise, Heightened Senses is the other one that I like. So out of them 2, that's probably what I go with. The Jormungandr one's pretty good too because it ignores enemy cover. So all 3 of them synergize well with this guy depending on what Hive Fleet adaptation you want to run him as. Ignoring cover with his cannon gives the benefit of, you know, it's only AP2, so it helps out. The other one, always fighting first in combat, is always handy because you can, you know, stop yourself from just copping a heap of hits. You can interrupt a bit there. And the Heightened Senses is your Warlord doesn't suffer any penalties to their hit rolls when they're shooting, or except for firing Overwatch. So in combat shooting, they don't get any penalties. So if you got to hit a flyer or those armies that have -1 to hit, he's not going to suffer from it. So Heightened Senses is usually where it's at for him. It's pretty good. So that's his psychic powers and his weaponry. So next we've got the Tyranid Prime, or Warrior Prime. The reason I've got him is because he buffs Warriors, which I have a couple of units of and will be putting more units in. So he's got the Bone Swords and the Death Spitter. The reason I've given him the Death Spitter is because that's 3 shots at Strength 5 and AP 1, so it's kind of like a range 18 heavy bolter, and then his Bone Swords give him +1 attack and they're AP 2. So he's strength 5, so he's pretty much getting 5 power axe attacks if you're, you know, looking at it like the marine equivalent of how that sort of works. So he'll be in there, and he also gives +1 to hit for warriors. So in the shooting phase, he'll be buffing them up to hitting on 3s, so they'll be hitting like Space Marines once again, I keep referencing that, sorry. And in combat, they'll be hitting on 2s. So that's really good. That sort of, he really gives them that edge and makes them that little bit better. Alright, and then next to them, I've got the Tyrant Guard. So the Tyrant Guard, I play a lot of tower people who use drones, and then I thought, you know, we have access to a similar thing in the Tyrant Guard. So these guys can fight in combat. They move pretty quick. They got 3 attacks apiece with Rending Claws and Scything Talons, so you get a bit of options. You can upgrade them. I personally don't upgrade them, but if you'd like to, you can give them like Crushing Claws and stuff. That's up to you. I don't do it. I think keep them bare minimum and go that way. The big thing is their shield wall. So each time a friendly Hive Tyrant loses a wound while they are within 3, on a 2+, this model takes a mortal wound instead of your Hive Tyrant taking the wound. So it's just there to keep him alive longer, take hits for him. They also can join in on the battle too, so it's a win-win. You're getting a combat unit and a unit that can protect your Hive Tyrant. So I think it's pretty good. And then if you're adding in more Hive Tyrants, if you had a flying Hive Tyrant as well, which I do have and probably will be adding into the list at some point, if it's standing near them, it can also utilise the buff as well. So any Hive Tyrant that's within 3 of them, so you could start it on the field near them, it absorbs the hits for him, so on and so forth. Then when you get closer, they also join in on combat. The other reason I want to use them as well is give them Catalyst. Then that way, when they take the mortal wound, you actually still have a chance of saving it. So instead of putting Catalyst on the Hive Tyrant and giving him feel no pain, I want to put Catalyst on these guys. That way, because they'll be absorbing the hits, they'll have to feel no pain. So that's a little bit of what I'll be doing there. So that's the HQs so far. As I said, the big guy for his synapse, long range firepower, combat ability, and then the other guys in there to buff the warriors. Alright, I'll move on to troops next. Alright guys, here's my 3 troops choices to make up my battalion. So in this, I've taken a 30-man blob of Gaunts, Hobgoblins. Then I've got 2 3-man teams of warriors. So the minimum 3. So the 30-man blob of Gaunts, they come with Scything Talons, and they've got a really good movement. So they move 8 inches. So they're really fast going across the field. They're only 5 points a model, which is really nice because it's only 150 points to this 30. Now I find in a lot of tournaments and things like that, you sort of need a bit of board control and screening units. These guys do all that really well. You can spread them out and really sort of get that big footprint on the battlefield, which is kind of handy when it comes to like objectives and all that sort of stuff. Now they only strength and toughness 3, so you know a good amount of bolter fire will kill them. But in saying that as well, while they're in synapse, they're fearless. So that's where, as a Tyranid player, we get the benefit of taking big units and not suffering the penalty of leadership. So with their Scything Talons, they reroll 1s to hit. They get 2 attacks apiece. And if they're over 20 men, they get to reroll wound rolls of 1 as well. So quite handy little buffs. You can put toxin sacks on them or adrenaline glands, but they start to get quite pricey at that point. It's up to you if you want to do it. But yeah, your unit's going to go from 150 points just skyrocket up in cost. So the other really good thing about them is, if you've watched any of my Orc battle reports, is when you're assaulting things, being able to consolidate into other units to bring them into combat. Like if you're fighting guard, you charge a tank and you want to consolidate into some other tanks to shut down their shooting. These guys have a consolidation move of 6 inches. So it's technically 7, because a little bit less than 7, because you've got to get within 1 of the enemy. So taking into consideration they move 8, then using the onslaught power, you can run an assault. And then if you want to, again, you've got Kraken, which buffs up that again, which gives you 3d6 for your advance. You're moving really fast across the battlefield, and then you're able to get into the enemy lines and, using a giant blob like this, shut down a lot of things, like bring a lot of things into combat. The whole idea is not to You're probably not going to kill everything with them. They are only strength 3. Like, they've got a massive amount of attacks, so you'll be able to do some damage, but you're more looking to lock things down and utilise that. So the other thing is too, you can put Catalyst on them as well if you want to. Give them a 5-up, feel no pain, just makes them stick around a little bit longer. A big unit like these with feel no pain, you know, it's a little bit like Poxwalkers for the Death Guard. They just, except these guys are obviously a lot faster as well and fight, but it's a very similar thing. So that's the Homogorns that I'll be using. Up the back, as you can see, I've got 2 units of warriors. The 2 units of warriors I've armed identical, so they've all got bone swords, which is probably the best because that gives them, as I said before with the prime, it gives them +1 attack and it's AP 2, which is nice. So it gives each of them 4 attacks. So even a little 3-man unit gets 12 attacks. With the prime around, they'll be hitting on 2s as well, so that's quite nice. For guns, they've got Death Spitters and Venom Cannons. So the 2 back guys, or the 4 back guys, all have Venom Cannons. Death Spitters. Death Spitters, same as the prime, strength 5, 3 shots, AP 1, so like heavy bolters, so good firepower. The Venom Cannons are D3 shots, strength 8, AP 2, and D3 damage, so you can actually put in some work with them. So these little units not only give synapse, they can fight, and they also can shoot as well. With the Tyranid prime around, they're shooting like Space Marines, hit, you know, really good hitting. The other thing too is, as they're synapse creatures, the same as the big guy, the 2 HQs, they got Shadow in the Warp, which causes a bit of fear, and it also minuses 1 to enemy psychers within 18 to their roll. So they do a few things like that are pretty good. I'm going to add some more units of these in just because they're really good. I've had a lot of success with them. If you're taking them as Jormungandr, then they get a 3-up save, which is really handy. As Kraken as well, because their weapons are assault weapons, it helps them just run along the field really fast, keeping up with the Homogorns and, you know, shooting and killing stuff. So that's the 3 troops that I've gone with. I'll be adding some more troops in, but for this time being, that's the 1st battalion done, and that's the troops. So what we'll do next is I'll move on to my heavy support. Alright guys, so lastly in the army is the heavy support that I've put in so far. Sorry about this guy on the right. He's just got his basing to go before he's done. There'll be a 3rd one of these going in at some point as well. Carnifexes. In this new edition, I cannot stress enough, making them shoot effexes is the go. There's just so much firepower that they can put out, and for such a reasonably cheap model, it's just really good. So these guys each come in at 119 points each, and what you get for that is your Carnifex, obviously, but you put Spore Cysts on him, which means anything shooting at them is a -1 to hit. Then you give him the Enhanced Sensors, which means that anything they're shooting at, they get a +1 to hit. So they're hitting on 3s, which is really, really good. Weapons wise, I give mine the Death Spitters with Slimer Maggots and the Heavy Venom Cannon. So Heavy Venom Cannon, same as the Hive Tyrant, D3 shots, strength 9, AP 2, flat 3 damage. So really good anti to anything really. Actually shoot it. You want to kill Primaris Marines, kill them. You want to shoot at Knights, you'll kill Knights. Tanks, battle tanks, characters, they can do the work. Then the 2 Death Spitters, they get 6 shots each guy. Strength 7, AP 1, 1 damage. I like them a bit better than the Devourer. I see a lot of people take the Devourer, but there's a few things I like better about this. These have got an extra 6-inch range at 24, as opposed to the 18. Their strength is 7, and they've got an AP, so it's a little bit less shots, but I like the reliability of the gun better. If you want to go the Devourers, I would suggest putting 4 on them just so you get 24 strength, 6 shots with the Enhanced Sensors. I may even add one of these in to back these 2 guys up, just give a little bit more DACA. So the other thing too is if you run these guys as Jormungandr, they give the cover, so that means that they're 2 up then. So they're -1 to hit, 2+ save. They start becoming really resilient on the battlefield. If you run them as Kraken, the other thing too is their weapons are all assault weapons. So once again, it gives you the ability to move around quickly and still shoot. So if you've got to get to an objective or get away from something, they've got a natural movement of 7. Then with Kraken, you would be rolling 3d6. So, you know, you can get a 13-inch move with these guys to get them around the battlefield to claim objectives and stuff, and even if they run, they're still hitting on 4, so still pretty good shooting for a big monster running around the battlefield. So having a couple of them in just rounds off the end of the army and gives the firepower so far. I've got, what are we at, about 900, so I've got about 450 points to add to this for the tournament. So I'll probably be putting in another Carnifex and some more firepower and maybe another Hive Tyrant. So what I'll do is I'll get back to the painting board, start painting some more, and hopefully this video was helpful just to let you know what I'm doing with my army, where I'm at, and if you like this, like and subscribe, and I'll get back to you with part 2 of this when I've done the rest of the army. Alright guys, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed.